Hey, American contractors, viewers of the American Contractor Show. I'm here with John Dye at Win the Storm, and I have to tell you, anyone that is associated with American Contractor Show, you are a badass.
Big shout out to American Contractor Show. If you don't know, you definitely need to check out the Storm Summit. They're doing it in excellence. Check them out.
Hey, what's up? This is your friend, Francisco Serrano. If you haven't checked it out, American Contractor Show, YouTube channel, Facebook channel, Twitter, Instagram, all the platforms, you need to go them, like them, start learning about your craft.
Hey, I'm Matt Danskin with Restoration Referral System. Check out the American Contractor Show. The truck that they've got is awesome. Everything else that they have going on.
This is Larry Bache with the Merlin Law Group, helping policyholders for more than 30 years. If you have a claim or your client has a claim that needs help, please feel free to call the Merlin Law Group because we are the true policyholder advocate.
C3 was eager to help us, and even whenever we weren't giving them work, they were still eager to give advice. The things that they were putting out for the for changing from DMO to RFG and giving that to the industry and not charging anything for it, I thought was really cool. And that's stuff that I, as a contractor, appreciate. I'd recommend C3 to any contractor that's looking for a PA, especially if you're around Colorado. Great guys, man. I'm nothing but happy with the work they've done for us.
What's up, everyone? We're another audio-only edition of our hail forecast today. It is lead meteorologist John Choquette here for that forecast. Thanks, as always, to our sponsors, C3 Group, Merlin Law Group, and our American Contractor Show. You can check them out in the description below, either their Facebook page or within the link that we have below. Trust me, next week we will be back on the green screen. We just had got about a foot of rain here in Oklahoma City in the last week, and that caused some leaking issues, and we need to make sure everything's fixed before we get all of our equipment back set up. So in the meantime here, we have a marginal storm threat today. Hail and gusty winds along the East Coast, but primarily in the Northeast, and then along the Carolina coast for some gusty winds this afternoon. We'll talk about that. The main story, though, is Elsa has become a hurricane in the Atlantic. Does Elsa want to impact Florida? We'll kind of go over that in a little bit of detail here, kind of what we're expecting, what the National Hurricane Center is expecting for Elsa going into next week. And finally, of course, this is going to be the last video that we do until Tuesday. The office will be closed on Monday. So happy 4th of July, everyone. Have a wonderful holiday weekend. It should be fairly pleasant weather across a good chunk of the country, so that should be nice. We got a couple upcoming events here in the month of July. The 2021 FRSA Convention and Expo at the Gaylord Palms Resort. You can come check us out there on July 21st to 23rd in Kissimmee, Florida. So come check us out at that show. We also have the NTRCA mini trade show. It's a tiny little one just for a day, an afternoon, just a couple hours really, in Grapevine, Texas at the convention center from August 4th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We'll be there. Come check us out. Come talk to us if you are a North Texas roofer. So, and finally, of course, you can sign up for the Thunder Road Race for Recovery. Again, this is going to be here all the way into September. The link is in the description below. It's for a great cause of roofers in recovery. 100% of the proceeds will go to roofers in recovery. You can sign up to be either a sponsor or a racer, either or both. And if you race, you're guaranteed at least 2 races. You can, these go-karts go about 55 miles an hour. You'll be able to really fly, and there's cash prizes at the end. So that's on September 15th. You can sign up in the link below, and that's whether you want to be a sponsor or you want to come race and see if you're better than everybody else racing. So looking forward to that. So what do we have happen yesterday? We did have a tornado. I actually saw a couple pictures of it in Delaware. Had quite a bit of hail and strong winds move through the Washington, D.C. area. We had one round earlier in the day that actually had up to some isolated hail larger than $half size in the general D.C. metro. And then we also had a second round of storms in the evening actually moving through Washington, D.C. itself, very close to the White House, with very strong winds. It was tornado warned, but doesn't look like there was a tornado with it, but some gusty winds nonetheless. Quite a bit of wind across the East Coast yesterday to start off July, and we did actually have a couple pop-up storms in the Greeley area and parts of Colorado for your afternoon yesterday. So what does that bring us for the storm report totals for that first day of July? We had that one tornado, 14 hail reports, 195 wind reports, and that puts us again well behind, almost 1,000 exactly hail reports behind from last year. And based on the pattern we're heading into, I think we are going to really kind of level off a little bit here, especially with hurricane season starting to kick off a little bit more, a little earlier than usual. That will kind of minimize that hail threat. So currently across the country, we have quite a bit of rain in the northeast and down by the Dallas-Fort Worth metro. Thankfully, finally here in Oklahoma City, we've had the rain stop, at least for now. A lot of rain in the deep south, and zooming in to the area where we could see some storms, you see that swirl in northeastern or northwestern sections of Pennsylvania. That is going to trigger off those storms this afternoon. It's actually the low pressure center, the center of the storm system that's causing all this rain from Texas all the way off the East Coast. So it's going to be very slowly moving off the coast, and it should trigger some more severe weather today. And then after that, we're going to be pretty quiet for the holiday weekend. Temperatures are nice for that second day of July here, 83 in Kansas City, 77 in Dallas, but it is raining. And again, good chunk of the country, it is nice and warm. And particularly here in Portland, Oregon, I usually never mention the Pacific Northwest, but notice it's 10 a.m. and only 68 degrees. Thankfully, that insane heat wave has finally broken up in the Pacific Northwest. No triple-digit temperatures up there. Portland now is the number 3 holder for the hottest temperature of all time in a major city with 116 degrees, which is absolutely crazy. Dew points in the Northeast are pretty uncomfortable in the 60s. That's giving that moisture potential for those storms today, and there is some instability to work with. Nothing too wild, pretty lower end instability, but should be just enough to get some of that marginally severe hail possible with any storms this afternoon. By 4:30 it really starts to calm down. That's 5:30 on the East Coast, and then by the time the sun goes down, there goes all your instability. So it's going to be a limited window for storms today, and they shouldn't be too intense. That future radar does show a couple storms there at 2 o'clock in central Pennsylvania, some storms by 4 o'clock again across central Pennsylvania, and even close to the New York City tri-state area. Storms continuing through the evening hours, and once that sun goes down, the severe weather really starts to taper off a bit. This model does show by 8 p.m. Central Time or 9 p.m. in Pennsylvania some storms east of Scranton, but nothing too wild. It should be more rain than big storms, and this should all rotate off the coast by the time we get to tomorrow morning to set up for a wonderful 4th of July weekend for a lot of the country, though there will be some rain northeast to start off that Saturday. Further off down to the south here in the other area we're looking at for a risk across the Carolinas, we do see some storms, more of a line of storms moving through by about 1:30, 2 o'clock. And those could have some gusty winds upwards of 60 to 65 miles an hour. Nothing too significant. It could be way worse, but as we move through the evening hours here, you can see a couple storms continuously popping up. A lot more of this is going to be really heavy rain than the big-time wind producers. Those are going to be those first storms that we stopped at there. So that forecast max hail size for today is going to be pretty small, only up to about that quarter to maybe $half size hail for this afternoon. So I don't think we're going to see anything too wild, maybe just a small handful of hail reports, and it's going to be really focused here what I have in the yellow from New York and then especially into eastern half of Pennsylvania. So from Syracuse to Scranton to Philadelphia, you have that low chance of that quarter to maybe $half size hail with any of the strongest storms that form. Pushing to the wind forecast, we have wind gusts up to 60 miles an hour are also possible with any of these hailstorms from Syracuse, and New York City is included in this. You could see some of that gusty wind close to 60 miles an hour from New York, possibly even as far east as like Southbury, Connecticut maybe, and then up towards Syracuse. And further down to the south here, pretty much from the I-95 corridor points east in the Carolinas is your best chance of seeing any winds around 60 miles an hour. Low chances Charleston to Wilmington. You guys saw that in the squall line. That's going to be after about 1 p.m. or after 2 p.m., on the East Coast. So what do we have for tomorrow? Well, it should be a good time for a lot of fireworks across, especially the center of the country here. No severe hail, no severe winds expected anywhere in the country. Things should be setting up pretty nicely for a good majority of the nation to have fireworks shows not canceled because of rain. So that should be exciting here for your July 3rd. And July 4th is also looking quiet for severe weather. And that's when we look ahead on the future jet stream. There isn't a whole lot to really talk about once we get past the low pressure center that we see here over the northeast as of 12 p.m. tomorrow. This is going to push off to the north and to the east into Canada, the Canadian Maritimes. And then after that, we have this massive high pressure center located over the Four Corners region in southwestern U.S., bringing in that nice warm weather across the majority of the country. And we move into Monday next week. The jet stream goes way up into Canada there, and that's really it. There's not a whole lot to unpack. Of course, there's going to be a couple marginal risks here and there for going into next week, but it really looks pretty quiet for the majority of the U.S. going into this first full week of July, except for Hurricane Elsa. Hurricane Elsa became a hurricane this morning, I think at the 4 a.m. update. As of right now, it has maximum wind speeds 75 miles an hour, is located over the outer Caribbean, moving into the Caribbean Sea. And as we bring that forecast track out, two things to note. This is the National Hurricane Center track, but I also have overlaid all of the models. So that way when you see the cone of uncertainty, you can also see what all the models are thinking. Because sometimes the models do venture outside of what the National Hurricane Center has. Sometimes they're able to sniff out what the hurricane may do before the National Hurricane Center adjusts. So I figure this is a good overlay. So as of Saturday at 8 a.m., wind speeds are expected to be about 80 miles an hour. So that's your typical Category 1 hurricane based on the fact that it is June. That's now early July, not June. We are not likely to see this thing rapidly intensify into anything wild. The ocean temperatures aren't quite warm enough for that yet. There's still a bit of shear in the atmosphere. So what you might see for tornadoes, the twisting in the atmosphere for good tornadoes. You do not want that in hurricanes. You want very light winds, but there's still a little bit of wind shear. And then the big question mark, whether going into the United States, is whether Elsa impacts the Caribbean islands of Hispaniola and Cuba. As of 8 p.m. on Saturday, the models are really all pretty much on top of each other here going into parts of Haiti. And then as we push over to Sunday morning, it looks like they're all trending to go over Cuba. And it looks like a lot of these models here are really indicating they're going to take the path of most resistance across the island of Cuba, where Elsa will definitely weaken probably a fair bit here as she crosses over the island of Cuba. And then that leads to the next question of when she pops out the other side, how much time is she going to have to re-strengthen to possibly a hurricane, or is she going to stay a tropical storm as she moves into Florida, probably some point between Tuesday and Wednesday here. But you notice here the models are, the spaghetti plots are kind of all over the place on this. So you're seeing that red line, center line going over the Tampa area. I would not lock that in. It's still quite a few days out. As you guys know, with hurricanes, things like to change. So you want to keep a close eye on this through the weekend. We'll obviously have an update on Tuesday. If it does look like Elsa's going to be a hurricane, Derek will definitely be going out and chasing it. And if not, if it's just a tropical storm, we'll likely let this one impact Florida. But of course, I know a lot of you guys have very high interest in seeing the first possible real intense tropical system moving into Florida of the year. So we'll be watching Elsa very, very carefully as she heads into the unknown, and all the other Frozen references that you'll be hearing the next few days. So the overall climatology, why is it we're not expecting Elsa to become a major hurricane? Well, here on July 2nd, it's usually pretty quiet. This is somewhat unusual to see a hurricane, possibly, especially if Elsa becomes a major hurricane. This would be one of the very, very few instances that's ever really happened here in the Atlantic. Things really tick up in August, typically mid-August through mid-October is where we get the majority of our activity, as you see in that graph. But, you know, hey, anything's possible here. We could see stuff, and we're going to keep a close eye on it. The big thing that makes me think we could see Elsa re-strengthen to a hurricane once she crosses over Cuba is the ocean temperatures in the Gulf are quite warm. You see buoy 42003 in the southeastern sections of the Gulf shows 85-degree temperatures. That is not anywhere near as warm as the peak season once we get into August, where it gets close to 90. It's good old bath water, but 85 degrees is enough to re-strengthen a tropical storm that has decent structural integrity to get itself back up to a minimal hurricane. So we'll be watching this again through the weekend and on Monday as well, and we'll give you guys a forecast update, probably really breaking down everything by Tuesday, as Elsa will likely be approaching Florida by then. So, of course, give us a follow on all of our social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all that jazz. You can always follow us at HailTrace. We'll be giving updates. You can always contact us through the weekend. Yes, the office will be closed, but of course, anything that happens at all will still be here mapping it live. So it should be pretty quiet, but again, we will be here and available for you for any comments, questions, or concerns through that weekend. 855-334-4245. You can email us as well, info@hailtrace.com, or visit our website for more details. Have a wonderful 4th of July weekend, everybody. We'll be keeping a close eye on Hurricane Elsa for you, and have a great time, and we'll see you again on Tuesday.